Us on 0044 793 991716. We all have a duty towards the preservation and the propagation of the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Indeed, one of the best ways to work towards the reappearance of Imam al-Mahdi ajjalallahu ta'ala farajul sharif is through promoting the values of Karbala. Imam Hussein Media Group is the only Shia television network that broadcasts globally in 5 different languages: Arabic, Farsi, Turkish, Urdu, and English. We are appealing to the lovers of Imam Hussein alayhi salam worldwide to support the channel such that it may continue its global operations. Imam Hussein Media Group is seeking 1,000 partners to pledge to a £14 contribution per month. This will allow the channel to sustain its operating costs as we continue to spread the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in multiple languages across the globe. You be a part of this great legacy and donate today. You can pledge in 2 ways. www.imamhussein3.tv/donate will take you direct to our donation page where you can pledge monthly. Or you can call or WhatsApp us on 0044 793 991716. Imam Hussein TV, your gateway to Karbala.
Whilst this winter many of you will be enjoying the festive season, Afghanistan is going through a crisis. Every winter the weather will reach temperatures as low as -18 degrees Celsius. With little finances and homes not adequate enough to keep the heat in, many families struggle during this season. The elderly are vulnerable and physically challenged to fight the cold during these days and nights. Young children must walk through snow and ice in order to get to school and return to a chilly and bitter cold home. Imam Hussein Development and Relief Foundation are determined to help. We will be providing households with coal to burn throughout the winter. $150 is all we need. $150 will be enough to provide heat and warmth for one household for the whole of winter. That's $150 for 4 months. You can donate via PayPal, bank transfer, or visit us at www.ihdrf.org to make a donation. Our Imams tell us the best of you are those who help those who are desperate. Help us spread the warmth. Thank you.
We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.
The show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Now, this is a live show. We're taking all of your questions. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, please send them in via the WhatsApp, the email address ahkamsos@imamhussein.tv, or alternatively, you can give us a call 0203 515 0199. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, put your questions in the comment section, and inshallah, the technical team will forward them to me, and me and the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer your questions. I'm your host, Mohsin Shah, and joining me is Sheikh Ali Ma'ash. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
How are you doing this evening, Sheikh?
Alhamdulillah, fine.
Fantastic. Let's kick off, Sheikhna. And how do we form the niyyah in Salah?
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. One of the conditions of Salah is to have the niyyah, and niyyah is wajib, which means you have to make the intention that you're performing this Salah, this ibadah, this worship qurbatan ila Allah Ta'ala, seeking nearness, closeness to Allah Azza wa Jal. Without this niyyah, the Salah is batil. You must make sure that you have this intention before you start. You don't have to utter or say it. Just keep it in mind that you're praying, let's say Salat al-Maghrib, 3 rak'ah, with this intention of seeking the nearness towards Allah Azza wa Jal.
Sheikh, if a seller learns of a defect in the exchanged item that he took, if the defect had existed in the item before the transaction had and he was unaware of it, what would be his right?
Yes, it is permissible for this individual to annul the transaction, fasakh in other words.
I know, okay.
Yeah, and the other option is to basically get the difference between the price of the normal and the defect product. So get the difference. So he gets back.
So okay, he's refunded.
Yes.
And refunded, so that he's paid the correct amount for it,
Exactly.
or the transaction is annulled. Sheikh, now we live in a time where medicine is at one of its peak, and blood transfusions are always required for those people who are blood donors and donate blood regularly. They'd know that if people stop donating blood, the NHS or the hospitals will run out within 4 days. So the amount of blood that's been used with patients is phenomenal. According to His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani, are we allowed blood transfusions, especially if they are coming from non-Muslims?
The Sayyid mentions that there's no ishkal or objection with this regard, because that blood becomes part of your body when it's been inserted and injected. So there's no issue with it.
Sheikhna, in Western countries where there are no Islamic Sharia courts, can a Muslim woman raise her case with a local law court and seek divorce?
Well, divorce in the law courts or the civil courts, whatever courts are there, according to the Sharia viewpoint, it's not accepted. You have to go through a nikah contract based on the Sharia. So you have to seek and basically see the Ahkam Sharia, his rep, or a Maulana who would basically do the issue of divorce or the nikah contract, both of them. You have to make sure that you perform them according to the Islamic Sharia and not just within the court or the civil courts and so forth.
Sheikh, a question from YouTube. Who is the Sufyani? Now, Sufyani, Sheikh, now, have we got anything in history that tells us who the Sufyani were in history? And are there prophecies of the Sufyani to rise and to, maybe accompany and be there at the end of times when the Imam Zaman shall return?
Of course, the Sufyan is one of the signs of the
end of times?
The sign of the return or appearance of the Imam Ajjallah Farajahu al-Sharif, in which he will form an army to fight the Imam. Of course, he moves towards Mecca and so forth, in Iraq as well. He's got a big journey with this regard, but eventually he will be destroyed in the middle of the desert in Arabia. He will be destroyed with his army. But he is the enemy of the Imam and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam.
I see. Another question from one of the viewers, and that is, Salam Sheikhna, can I join these dating apps that are made for Muslims? Also, can I join dating apps that are not made for Muslims? So dating apps, I'm not sure if you're aware, Sheikhna, how the dating world has changed. And people are online now with their profiles and so forth, looking for marriage, maybe sometimes looking for other things. But as a Muslim, are we allowed to use the Muslim ones and the non-Muslim ones?
You see, what is the purpose? If it's to do with dating with the haram relationships, of course, it's forbidden and haram. You cannot use such apps for, or any website or any means to have this indecent relationship with the opposite gender. For the marriage, I think there are some websites available now or apps, Muzmatch and so forth, for Muslims to get married. Things that changed from the past where you get the proposals from the parents and so forth. You have many people who moved from their countries to the West and they live now alone and single. So they try to find their own future wife and spouse. So that's why you see they would go through these apps and websites. As I've said, if it's used for haram, it's definitely haram or forbidden. But for the purpose of marriage, of course, you have to use the right means, the right apps, the right websites. So you won't end up regretting this marriage in which you have not found the right person. So be very careful with this regard.
Ahsantum. Sheikhna, can we prostrate on loose soil or mattress or pillow while praying?
You see, the salah and the sujood must be made on a firm surface. In other words, it has to be stable, and when you perform the sujood, you shouldn't basically bounce. The head should be stable, fixed on the ground. Even if it's carpet or mat or rugs, for example, should be fine. But mattress and pillows where your head will be bouncing up and down. No, of course.
I see.
The salah will be batil. You can't pray on these types of surfaces.
Sheikh, is it permissible to use a talisman to avert or deter an aggressor? And is it permissible for an oppressed or a wronged individual to use it if he is harmed by an aggressor and he cannot repel him and he is fearful?
If there's no harm or haram involved in this act of using, as mentioned in Arabic, talsam or talasim.
Okay.
If there's no harm to the other side, to the people surroundings, there's no objection to that.
I see. Sheikh, a wife neither obeys her husband nor fulfills her marital duties. She also goes out without his permission to stay with her own family for 7 months. Then, instead of having recourse to Islamic laws, she goes into a non-Islamic court in order to get spousal maintenance, custody of the children, and divorce from her husband. Does such a wife have the right in getting anything from her husband in such a situation? When she goes to non-Islamic court, it will apply non-Islamic laws to grant her divorce and her rights, spousal support and custody of children. Does she deserve her full spousal rights, according to the eminence of the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani?
The Sayyid mentions that this wife does not deserve to receive spousal maintenance from the Sharia viewpoint, but she has the right with regards to her mahar and the custody of the children, in this case, under the age of 2. She has the right. The mahar is hers, basically, and the children are hers if they are under 2 years of age. So they can't suspend this right because of this disobedience and dispute and so forth. Yes, you can stop paying the maintenance and so forth, but the mahar stays as is, and the custody stays also. The right is preserved.
Shaykh, some questions coming in from our viewers. From YouTube, is it halal to avoid tax, especially in non-Muslim countries?
You see, Ayatollah Sistani is very strict with regard to following the laws of the land. So you have to be careful with this regard.
Okay. From WhatsApp, can I use Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies for charity?
Again, there's a difference between the ulama's opinion with this regard. Some would allow, some wouldn't allow it. You have to go back to your marja to see if they allow it for any purpose.
Okay, fair enough. Another one from YouTube. What is the ruling on the Shia that pray in a Sunni mosque and begins and breaks his fast during the Sunni times for Fajr and Maghrib under the fear of harm or ostracism? This is from YouTube.
You see, it has to be the situation of severe harm or life-threatening situation, which is the taqiyya, can be implemented in such places. It depends the situation. If it's, in a place, in a region where you have the Nasibis, the enemies of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, then of course the one can do taqiyya. With regards to the salah, praying like them, folded hands and so forth, whatever, the one can basically see the situation that they need to do taqiyya to save their life, for example. That's of course its own hukum. Taqiyya is allowed.
Fair enough.
But otherwise, no, you can't, just because of a bit of harm, a bit of insult, whatever. Sometimes they abuse the Shia of Ahlul Bayt. Even in Europe, if you go to some of their mosques, Wahhabi mosques, they would, start to slander to.
Yeah, they'll kick you out. Some of them, not all of them. But inshallah, we're trying to make more mosques, more Husseiniyyat, inshallah. Sheikhna, from WhatsApp, is Hizr Imam al-Jawad legit? Hirs. Is Hirs Imam al-Jawad legit?
It's a very well-known Hirs, of course. They basically write that dua and the Hirs, and you carry that with you as a means of protection. So of course he has been mentioned, and many of believers do use this Hirs in their.
Another one from WhatsApp, I believe. Is Talsams of Amir al-Mu'mineen have any basis?
Basically, we mentioned that the Talasim or Talsam, basically, if there's no harm, if there's no ala kulli hal haram involved, the one can use them. Now, of course, you have to go back to specialists. The specialists with this regard, the books of Talasim, it mentions all the information about these and the usage of these Talasim, of course.
Interesting question here from YouTube, Sheikhna. I think we need to answer this. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalam.
As far as I know, prophets can do mistakes, not sins, mistakes. But is that the case with our Imam as well, alayhi salam? Can they forget something or do any type of mistake? This is from YouTube.
The Quran clearly states, "In huwa illa wahyun yuha." The Prophet ﷺ has been revealed by the angel Jibreel. His acts and his sayings are wahy. Whatever he says, whatever he does, is the sunnah and wahy.
Yes.
You cannot say that the Prophet can do mistakes, or even they can missing things, you know,
like errors.
They're error-free, sin-free, and so forth.
Is this just Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, or is this all the Anbiya, all the Nabis?
You see, it's been inherited to Ahl Bayt alayhi salam. The 14 Ma'soom, they share the same asma, the same, let's say, these features in terms of the asma, in terms of being sinless, error-free, mistake-free, and so forth. Otherwise, how can you trust a prophet when he does mistakes? How can you take the risala, the words, the hadith from him? You could be mistaken in this hadith. How can you take his hadith?
Does this also apply to Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam?
Even all the prophets are ma'sumin as well. How can their people and community take the words of Isa alayhi salam when he does mistakes? In this situation, you would lose trust in the Prophet when he reveals to you words of Allah Azza wa Jal, hadith, and so forth, teachings. If there's mistakes, then you can't trust him 100%.
I see.
That's why Allah gave them this status of infallibility and asma, so they can deliver the message completely without any error.
Be the perfect example. Ahsantum. Sheikhna, is it permissible to engage in cup reading, even if it's for entertainment purposes?
I mean, again, if it's no haram involved in such act, no haram, no harm, that should be fine.
Is it permissible to read books that cause the thoughts of a Muslim to deviate from his religion, given that he is not able to refute them, and he may be lax in searching for a convincing response, and therefore those false thoughts may reside in his mind as the truth?
Again, for the one who has weak knowledge or weak faith in his aqidah, cannot go and read books which have lots of skepticism, lots of doubts about the existence of God, the existence of, let's say, the faith and the religions and the creeds and the sharia. You can't really read such books if you don't have enough knowledge, so you can refute back all these allegations. I remember that in 2007, one of the most sold books and winning books was a book called The God's Delusion by Richard Dawkins.
Yeah,
Sadly,
famous atheist.
Exactly. It was the most sold book. So you can't read such books if you don't have enough information about Tawheedullah Azza wa Jal, about monotheism, Allah's Tawheed, and so forth. So you have to avoid reading such books unless you have rich knowledge and a stage where you can refute and you can easily find your answers straight away by reading these lines.
Sheikh, a question from WhatsApp, I believe. Does intercourse before permanent marriage only come through mu'a or temporary marriage?
I didn't understand, sorry. Can you repeat again?
Does intercourse before permanent marriage only so the only way you can have halal intercourse, is it through mu'a or mut'a or temporary marriage before actually having permanent marriage, being permanently married to someone? Is that the only halal option available? Either you do mut'a or you get married.
Yes, we have two types of marriages, either the permanent or the short term. I can't remember any other ways of...
Meaning intercourse out, if you were to do intercourse and you haven't done mut'a or you haven't done permanent marriage, is there any halal option, or is it just those two?
As far as I remember, there's only these two options.
Okay.
Because the only way you can become halal to this woman is through the nikah contract, which is read for the permanent and the one's wife, future wife, is read, and this wife becomes halal to you, this woman. Or as a short term, which is the mut'ah. Otherwise, I can't see anything else other than that.
Sheikh, then what is the ruling for the family's use of alcohol that is made from petroleum and which is used in perfumes and medicines? And does it contain impurity? And can it be used in prayer? His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sheikh Bashir al-Najifi, has a fatwa on this. What does he say?
Sheikh Bashir al-Najifi has a unique fatwa with this regard, that he considers every type of alcohol is an intoxicant. Yes. Najis. Which means all the alcohol in perfumes is najis. So you can't spray them on your body because it becomes najis. And you have to purify it for the salah. So yes, the Sheikh would have this opinion with this regard. Those who follow the Sheikh, of course, they have to prevent from using perfumes with alcohol.
Quite strict.
But other maraja would, in overall they would allow it. Maybe Sayyid al-Hakim also goes with similar fatwa, but not 100% sure. But other maraja would allow, as I've said before, if the alcohol is industrial, it's okay to be in soaps, in shampoos, in perfumes. But if it's intoxicant, then it's of course ishkal, najis and haram.
Excellent. We're going to go to a short break. Sheikh, inshallah, join us after the break as we continue our discussion here on Ahkam SOS.
I have a question regarding keeping pictures of scholars.
Is it permissible to plant trees by or over
Islam
the
establish based on peace and
non-violence? Is it permissible to collect donations for charity projects from
Is it permitted to consume canned food imported from non-Muslim countries?
Is there an issue for men looking at non-Muslim women?
To have your questions answered live, call in on +44 2035 150199 or WhatsApp us on +44 7415 092155. Alternatively, you can also email us on ahkamsos@imamhussein.tv.
Yes, that is how you can send in all of your questions. There is no question which is silly or too taboo. It is our duty here to give you your answers. This is why we ask you to send in your questions anonymously. We don't need to know your name, where you're asking from. Send in your questions on any topic you'd like. If it's in regards to a particular marja, we have connections, we have, we can liaise with the official representatives and also the official offices as well, and we can get you your answers in accordance to the marja that you follow. Any questions, send them in via the WhatsApp, the email address. Give us a call 0203 515 0199. If you're watching on Facebook or you're watching on YouTube, put your questions in the comment section, and inshallah, our technical team can send them to me here on this iPad, and I will ask the Sheikh inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum.
Sheikhna, next question is, if someone who has migrated to the West obtains after a while new nationality, is it necessary for him to return to the Muslim country, or is it permissible for him to stay in the Western country?
Well, if staying in the Western country would not result in losing their faith and aqeedah and becoming, let's say, atheists, or becoming even secular, or even non-religious in terms of not practicing the wajibat and preventing the muharramat. If they are safe from these situations, of course they can stay there, they can migrate, that's fine. But as we see, many of the Muslims who have migrated, sadly, some of them are from religious families, faithful families, but their youths have, let's say, from the male and female individuals who migrated to the West, now they have lost their faith in Islam and in Aqeedah and everything, and they are involved now in clubbing, attending, let's say, the nightclubs, drinking, na'udhu billah, music and so forth, dating and so forth. So yes, the one should see himself if they can preserve and protect their faith, Aqeedah, of course. That would be even great if they want to go and establish Islamic centers, mosques, wargas, Husseyniyat in the West. That would be, of course, a credit and a great support to the faith.
Sheikh, some questions coming from our viewers from the YouTube. If there is cat hair under my prayer mat, is my prayer still accepted?
How is the cat under the prayer mat?
No, the cat hair was underneath the sajada.
No, what is important that it's not on your clothes.
Okay.
It's not on your garments.
Okay,
that's
so
important.
that's simple. Okay. Sheikh, from one of the viewers, if a wife does not allow her husband to have intercourse when he calls her to bed, is she being sinful?
You see, they have to come into mutual agreement with this regard that you know, it's part of the love and passion involved in the marital life. They have to come in some kind of resolution, some kind of agreement that, you know, whenever I need, you try to offer it for me, and vice versa. So of course we have narrations with this regard that the wife, one of her obligation is to offer herself for the husband. As I've said, sometimes she's tired, sometimes she's ill. Of course, the husband should consider all these situations in which that brings more respect, love for both sides.
Inshallah. Okay, Sheikhna, one of the questions we were talking about was about Nabis and Imam making mistakes. Developing from that, Sheikhna, so how did Imam Ali alayhi salam, according to Kitab al-Sulaim, remember the words of the Prophet when he was hitting Umar? Did he, Imam Ali alayhi salam, forget so that he remembered? This is from YouTube. So we were talking about, do they make mistakes or make errors and so forth. Now, if we take the hadith from Kitab al-Sulaim, which is hadith number 2 in regards to the attack on the door, Imam Ali alayhi salam came to protect Sayyidah Fatima Zahra salam alayha. Then the hadith goes on to that. He punched Umar bin Khattab on the face, he threw him onto the floor, he put his foot on his neck and drew out his sword. And they say he was going to kill him there and then. Now, did he forget what Rasulullah had said to bear patience? Or was Imam Ali alayhi salam doing the right thing in protecting his house and his family, his wife? And maybe the patience was not to kill him.
Of course, as mentioned even in the same book, I think, when I've read a couple of years ago, that he says, لولا عهد من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. If there was no wasiyah and the will from the Holy Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم to remain patient, I would have killed you. So the Imam, of course, he took the right action, and he's the Imam. He needed to show something against those attackers, that what you did was absolutely wrong and haram and against the Prophet and against Allah Azza wa Jal. من آذاها فقد آذاني ومن آذاني فقد آذى الله عز وجل. That whoever hurts Fatima hurts me. So it's all very clear that the Imam alayhi salam was in the position of being patient. And even the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his time, he didn't kill many of those who attacked the door of Fatima. The maslahah, the interest was there that they remain. And of course, the dunya is the dunya of test and tribulations, in which to see who follows Amir al-Mu'minin Ali alayhi salam and who follows his enemies. That's the whole thing about what happened after the Prophet's demise sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It's all test, to test the humanity. Even in Jamal, the battle of Camel, who is with Aisha and who is Ali alayhi salam? It's a test. Would you go with the cousin of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam or with the wife of Rasulullah? It's a big test, and thousands failed that test and went with Aisha. He's the Imam of your time. How could you raise a sword against him and bring non-mahram men out with you all the way from Mecca all the way to Basra? وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ, remain in your houses. But she disobeyed this holy Quranic verse, that to remain in your house, وَقَرْنَ, and do not go out.
Ahsan. Sheikhna, again from one of the viewers, is it mustahab to keep animals in the house?
In narrations we have some of the birds and
yeah,
chickens and so forth, and sheep and so forth, yes.
Ahsan. Sheikhna, from one of our viewers on YouTube, what do you know about taweez, or taweez as we say in our language, found at home that looks like there's black magic done?
Of course, there are people who would use the black magic. I don't know exactly how. They would write something or do something. They would bury that piece of text or written inside, let's say, the wall, for example, to cause discomfort within the house. Of course, there are people who can basically write ta'weez, the positive ta'weez to destroy this type of black magic and so forth. There are experts with this regard.
Staying on the topic of magic, from one of our viewers, does magic and magical powers, good or evil magic, have a basis in Islam?
We have something mentioned in overall. We even have hukum about the sahir, the magician, in Islam. So there is something, yes, that they would try to show, delusions and all these acts in which would make the one to think things which they can't really think very well. So yes, we have these narrations, the Sahara, the magicians in the time of Fir'aun, mentioned in Quran, for example. But of course, the strongest power we have is the dua of Ahlul Bayt, the holy verses, the dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which can defeat any kind of negative ta'weez or black magic.
Sheikh, now I think we're going to go to our Shia Plus video, inshallah. Let's see what issue our youth will present to us today and how we can help solve them, inshallah.
Can I pray behind my friend, even though he's not a sheikh or a knowledgeable person?
Okay, there's Yasser there asking. Yasser, mashallah, wants to start a jama'ah, wants to join someone in their prayer. Doesn't know if this person is, the person's not a sheikh or a mu'ammim, doesn't know their status or whether they are qualified to lead a jama'ah or not. Can you join in that situation, Sheikh? Can you just start praying behind someone that you don't know, you've seen for the first time?
In overall, if you know this individual or those who are around him, they know him, they are pious individuals, that's fine for the adala, for the justice of this individual to be achieved, and the one can join the jama'ah, inshallah.
Sheikh, if practices of religious rites attract the ridicule of some in non-Muslim countries, is it permissible to abandon them?
Mocking has no justification in religion. I mean, historically, when we look at the time of the prophets, they were mocked, they were laughed on and beaten, but they never abandoned their creed, their aqidah, their message. They continued. They suffered a lot, but they delivered their message until they were martyred and killed. The Holy Quran states with this regard, for those who mock the prophets, mock the believers, the mu'mineen, mocks the muhajjaba woman with full hijab, calling her like letterbox, for example. Those ignorant individuals who don't understand the beauty of Islam, the beauty of this ahkam, that you as a human being have no place on this planet without the power of Allah, the power of the revelation and the prophets who came to teach the humanity, to give felicity, to give happiness in this world and then hereafter. So the Quran states in Surah 36 verse 30, يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم الرسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون. Alas for the servants, for the people, there comes not to them a messenger, but they mock at him. And we see this all the way from Adam alayhi salam all the way till today, that there are a group of people who would mock the mu'mineen. There are people who would mock the Muslims in overall, that the Islamophobia and so forth. And then you have those from the Muslim community who would mock the Shia followers of Ahlul Bayt, that they beat their chest, for example, they cry, they do these things, for example, in Muharram and Safar, they have temporary marriage and so forth, without knowledge, without reading their own books, at least their own textures. So mocking is the tool of the one who is ignorant and has no means of using the intellect and aql.
Sheikh, we've got plenty of questions coming from the YouTube and from the WhatsApp. Inshallah, we shall continue. Regarding the Battle of Jamal you mentioned from YouTube, did Imam Ali alayhi salam forgive Aisha after the Battle of Jamal, or did Imam Ali alayhi salam ever curse Aisha?
You see, forgiving meaning that he did not punish by killing her, for example, or killing those who, the perpetrators, those who were around her, who waged the war with her. So he let them off to go back to their bases, to Medina, Mecca. But of course, he did not forgive them in terms of what Allah wants, Azza wa Jal. Yani, they will get the punishment because they didn't do tawbah. They have to start to ask for forgiveness from the Imam and from Allah Azza wa Jal. But we never have recorded that Aisha asked forgiveness. And instead the Quran says فَقَدْ صَغَتْ قُلُوبُكُمَا. Your hearts will be deviated. خلاص, finished.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum.
There's major issues from where I'm from in the Khalij Gulf countries that when consuming camel meat, ghusl or wudu is needed. Is this correct in Shia fiqh or is just Sunni fiqh?
I haven't heard such a thing before, no.
So as long as it's halal, okay, no problem. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalam.
What do you say to the Nawasib who claim Dua Kumail is da'if and has no chain?
Well, they have to start initially from the stage of Tawheed initially. They have to establish that they are muwahid. Muwahid means the one who is monotheist, truly. Because the problem with the Nawasib, if you go to their beliefs, they have what is known as tajseed, embodying Allah Azza wa Jal. That Allah is sitting on the throne, on the arsh. And He also has a weight. And those who carry that arsh, the 8 angels, they feel the heaviness of Allah's, na'udhu billah, and God forbid, astaghfirullah. So they have to initially clear these out before they come to our own aqidah and our own ad'iyah and so forth.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. Is direct istighatha halal?
When we say direct istighatha, as we have in dua at-tawassul, ya wajihan عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله, we link it to Allah Azza wa Jal. For example, Ya Rasulullah, إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله. O Rasulullah, we ask you, we do the tawassul, shafa'a from you إلى الله. We link it to Allah Azza wa Jal. Without Allah, you can't, of course. So you have to have a chain between, connection between the Prophet and Allah Azza wa Jal.
From YouTube, Sheikhna, does a non-baligh child need to do wudu when touching the Quran?
The child in overall has no hukum on it in terms of these acts in which salah is not wajib for him or for her, or or fasting and so forth. But it's good to teach them from this age that they have to have wudu before they touch the Quran, for example. But the non-baligh, they don't have that ala kulli hal hukum of like the baligh ones.
Okay, Sheikhna, sometimes when we go to restaurants, there are many different types of cuisines. Sometimes the food is not cooked fully. As you are aware, sometimes there's things like sushi. When you eat steaks, some people like to eat their steaks rare or medium rare or raw or so forth. Even there's a famous Lebanese cuisine where they have lahm matrum and it's mixed and it's raw. Is this halal to consume or not?
There's no issue with it, but of course cooked meat is preferred.
Okay. For medicinal reasons and health reasons, it's better to cook and kill off the bacteria. But when it comes to Islamic fiqh, there's no issue with raw meat.
If there's no harm, of course,
to
the body.
Sheikhna, is Friday wash, which is performed as qadha, a substitute for wudu, in accordance to His Eminence the Grand Ayatollah Sheikh Bashir Najafi?
The Sheikh mentions that if one cannot perform the Friday ghusl on Friday, then they can do qadha on Saturday. But it wouldn't substitute and exchange it with the wudu. Ayatollah Najafi is one of the ulama, along with others like Ayatollah Shirazi, who would consider that the only ghusl, or at least ghusl al-Jum'ah, would not suffice for wudu.
You have to perform
You have to basically do wudu before you go to the Salat al-Dhuhr and Asr, Salat Jum'ah and so forth. But other Maraja' like Ayatollah Sistani, others, they would allow for the individual to do the ghusl of Friday, for example, and go straight to the Salah.
Shaykhna, the socializing with the Ahl Kitab and those who hate Islam, which is due to their ignorance of its truth, constitute a breach of the duty of tabarri, or disowning the enemies of the truth, or is it permissible on the basis of maintaining good human relations?
Well, it's permissible. We should try to attract those individuals, and I think even those far-right groups in Europe now attacking Islam, burning the mosques, for example, breaking the windows. We try to attract them. They are jahil, ignorant, and they have seen the evil side of the Muslim world, the Taliban, the Qaeda, Daesh, ISIS, and they think that's Islam. And what came now in Europe is that type of Islam. So we have to teach them, talk to them, sit down with them, and attract them. And I'm sure that if one can do such thing, I think many of them would even convert to Islam.
Very possibly.
Definitely.
Shaykhna, shaking hands with a non-mahram woman is haram for a man, but this sometimes causes embarrassment for the observant Muslim man in Europe. For example, in business and in official dealings, when a woman reaches to handshake, if one refrains to do so, it may cause offense and it might even reflect negatively on the conduct and outcome. What is the ruling for shaking hands in these circumstances?
In the case of compelling situations, in the viewpoint of the Sharia, of course, one may shake hand with the gloves. Without the gloves, the skin-to-skin touch is haram, definitely.
I see.
They can't. But if they're compelled, they can wear, let's say, the man or the woman, they can wear gloves and shake hand with the gloves without gripping and pressing hard on the hands. That's, I think, a way in which the one can, deal with the situation, because sometimes it's a job interview, sometimes it's meeting, for example, people in the government, for example, businesses. But in overall, we have a hadith, it's a long hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, narrated by Imam Ali alayhi salam, in which states, "Man safaha imra'atan tahrumu alayh," the one who shakes hands with the woman who is haram on him, non-mahram, a strange woman, فَقَدْ بَاءَ بِسَخَطٍ مِنَ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَ, then he would remain with the wrath of Allah Azza wa Jal. And the one who remains with the wrath of Allah, the one who continuously every day he shakes hands with a strange woman, and he's a, let's say, salesman, because that's his job, to go to the people, introduce a product and so forth, then of course they would remain with the wrath of Allah Azza wa Jal. The way is, as I've said, to wear gloves and shake hands with the gloves. Otherwise, it's not allowed at all, and the one should change their job. If they have to change, shake hand without the gloves, they have to change the job.
I see. Sheikh, some questions from our viewers. Is it true that Imam Ali alayhi salam advised the Shaykhain during their Khalifa, even though they were hypocrites? If so, then why? I think they're referring to the first and second Khalif.
You see, they used to come to the Imam alayhi salam to ask for advice, and the Imam, from his mercy, from his humbleness.
You could also say, Shaykhna, from that his responsibilities to look after the Muslim
exactly,
Ummah
the Ummah is, ala kull hal, if he leaves them, then of course they're going to the whole will deviate from this right path. So he would offer the advice, but see how cowards they were, in which they would just walk away from him. You saw the Imam gave you the solution, saved you from a disaster, and you just walk away. And after 25 years of leaving the Imam, they come and knock the door. Ya Ali, save us. After the killing of Uthman ibn Affan. So sadly, people betrayed the Imam alayhi salam when they witnessed Ghadir Khum and the bay'ah to the Imam, but they paid a hefty price, to be honest. The battles that took place afterwards, the bloodshed, as a result of leaving the people of the household of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Shaykhna, is niqab obligatory? From WhatsApp.
Yes, if it causes haram. In other words, the one would incline towards the haram acts such as adultery, masturbation, and so forth. It becomes wajib. You have to get married in this situation.
Okay. Salam Sheikhna.
Salam.
How has our interaction with Sunni, Ismaili or Zaydi sects been in your own experience?
I have seen them in Karbala, especially the Ismailis, I think, the Buhra.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can see there's no communication between us as Shia and the Buhras and the Ismailis or the Zaydis. I think we need a lot of dialogue sessions, debate sessions.
We have more in common with them than we have with other schools of
yeah,
thought,
so we need to guide them as well, because you can't be half imami.
Yes, fair enough.
We have narrations with regard, mushkila.
Sheikh, did Imam Ali or Hassan or Hussein alayhi salam ever pray behind any of the companions?
I can't remember, to be honest, but there's a narration with this regard that when Imam Ali alayhi salam was in the mosque and praying behind Abu Bakr, there was a plot by Khalid ibn Walid to kill Imam Ali alayhi salam, who was next to the Imam, and he was hiding his sword. When Abu Bakr, on his last rak'ah and tashahhud, he said, before he says Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, he said, Khalid, don't do it, la taf'al, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. In which the Imam stood up and of course he took Khalid and he threw him on the floor. Of course, the Imam, as I've said, situations, we have to see what was that situation.
Awesome.
Was the Imam reciting Furada in his Salah, as we do when we go to Mecca and Medina, we recite Salah Furada, but in Jama'ah. So we have to do the situation. The Imam, of course, is the Imam. He's got, the permission in which to either pray or not pray behind them. It depends, because praying behind the Khalifa, the so-called Khalifa, means you are with the Jama'ah. But if you don't pray in Jama'ah, means you're against the government, you're opposition, and you have to be punished.
Sheikhna, we haven't got much time left, so quickly try and whiz through some of these questions that have come from our viewers. During wudu, do your nails or teeth need to be clean?
I think we've answered this. In terms of obstacles, yes, you have to clean it from obstacles.
Can we cut our nails on Tuesday or not?
In overall, you can. I haven't heard.
I've heard something about daytime you should cut your nails.
The best time is Thursday and Fridays. Try to keep them till Thursday and Fridays.
Okay, let's see. Trying to get these short ones out of the way. Assalamu alaikum. Is it true the Prophet ﷺ has other daughters than who were the mother of them? Then who were the mother of them, and why there is no any mention of their daughters?
I think that's going to be the last question, because I'm going to elaborate on this question. Basically, there are two opinions with this regard by the ulama of the Madrasa of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, that are those daughters the actual daughters of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like Ruqayyah, and who do we have? Ruqayyah and Zainab. Are they the actual daughters or adopted daughters? So we have two opinions. One says yes, they are the daughters of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and some say that they are actually adopted daughters. And of course, those who say they are the real daughters of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of course, they have their own facts from some of the ad'iyah in the month of Ramadan, that we say salam to the daughter of the Prophet, to Ruqayyah bint Nabiyyika. Assalamu ala Ruqayyah bint Nabiyyika wal'an man aada Nabiyyika fiha. So it says clearly that Ruqayyah is the daughter of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So anyway, it's something that
Ahsantum. Thank you so much, Sheikh. And thank you to all of you for joining us on this episode of Ahkam SOS. If we didn't get to answer your question, there was a couple there where we've run out of time. We do apologize, but join us on Monday's episode, and inshallah we'll be answering those questions. If you have a question you'd like to send in, please send it in via the WhatsApp email address. If you're watching on Facebook Live, on YouTube, just put it in the comment section, and inshallah they'll all get forwarded to me, and inshallah we'll be answering them on Monday's episode, 6:30 here on Imam Hussein TV 3. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.
Whilst this winter many of you will be enjoying the festive season, Afghanistan is going through a crisis. Every winter the weather will reach temperatures as low as -18 degrees Celsius. With little finances and homes not adequate enough to keep the heat in, many families struggle during this season. The elderly are vulnerable and physically challenged to fight the cold during these days and nights. Young children must walk through snow and ice in order to get to school and return to a chilly and bitter cold home. Imam Hussein Development and Relief Foundation are determined to help. We will be providing households with coal to burn throughout the winter. $150 is all we need. $150 will be enough to provide heat and warmth for one household for the whole of winter. That's $150 for 4 months. You can donate via PayPal, bank transfer, or visit us at www.ihdrf.org to make a donation. Our imams tell us the best of you are those who help those who are desperate. Help us spread the warmth. Thank you.
We all have a duty towards the preservation and the propagation of the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Indeed, one of the best ways to work towards the reappearance of Imam al-Mahdi ajjalallahu ta'ala farajul sharif is through promoting the values of Karbala. Imam Hussein Media Group is the only Shia television network that broadcasts globally in 5 different languages: Arabic, Farsi, Turkish, Urdu, and English. We are appealing to the lovers of Imam Hussein alayhi salam worldwide to support the channel such that it may continue its global operations. Imam Hussein Media Group is seeking 1,000 partners to pledge to a £14 contribution per month. This will allow the channel to sustain its operating costs as we continue to spread the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in multiple languages across the globe. You be a part of this great legacy and donate today. You can pledge in 2 ways. www.imamhussein3.tv/donate will take you direct to our donation page where you can pledge monthly. Or you can call or WhatsApp us on 0044 793 9917163. Imam Hussein TV, your gateway to Karbala.